WNST, a bit of my lurid youth as the all-access guy at Hammerjacks and the Evening Sun and interviewing rock stars and bringing them back on. I at one point thought Rob Halford from Judas Priest was going to be my first guest, but this guy jumped in a few hours ahead of the curve. I interviewed him back on the MSG tour at Hammerjacks in 1989. I have sifted through the tapes. We're going to be presenting that. He is from Germany, which, of course, is the country that saved my wife's life a few years ago, and obviously a legendary guitar player. Anyone familiar with the metal world or UFO or the Scorpions or their bass or MSG or the Michael Schenker group, we welcome the great guitar god Michael Schenker on for the first time to talk a little rock and roll. They'll be performing down at the Fillmore on March 6th. Michael, I got to tell you, this is a whole Michael Schenker fest. I can't believe you're bringing all of the vocalists together at one time. This is probably something you couldn't have done 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, I can't believe it either. I think it wasn't meant to be for 20 years ago. I think this is the time. It's the third stage of my life. It's celebration mode. It's the desire to perform the most popular music of Michael Schenker with as many original guitar singers as possible. And I picked the 80s, Gary Barden, Robin McCauley, Graham Bonnet, and we have an additional singer, Dougie White, who was the current Temple of Rock, Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock, when we toured a few times the States with Herman and Francis, ex-rhythm section of Scorpions, Rocky Like a Hurricane. And so here we are, 4 singers, current, present, and a new album on the 2nd coming out. On the 6th we play the Fillmore in Springfield, at Silver Spring, and so it all fits nicely together.
Well, in getting guys together during this era, you know, I've read the tales on the internet since our last 30 years. You know, in and out of bands, it's a rock and roll story, different singers, different guitar players. Most bands in the metal era or of any rock era have had players you leave, come, stay, go. But to bring everybody together one time here to do this across America, this must have been an incredible undertaking for you, because you can say, well, there's managers involved and people, but there's relationships, and there are probably good times and bad times with all of these guys. But getting them all on the phone and trying to bring it together, give me a little background on when this was conceived and trying to put this together for yourself.
Yeah, it was like I realized after touring with Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock for 4 years, consistently making 2 live DVD CDs and 2 studio albums, I suggested a break. So Herman and Francis went their ways and carried on doing some other stuff, and I was wondering what I should be doing. So I I just realized that, you know, this is the 3rd stage of my life. I've been touring the most popular music of Michael Schenker for the last 4 years and before, you know, all with different singers, not the original ones. And so I scattered all my energy over the years in all directions, you know, Klaus Meine, Fillmore, then Gary Barden, Graham Bonnet, Robin McCauley, and then Dougie White, and a lot of other singers in between. But the 80s is the most prominent, like the most, it's the section that sticks out most, and it is the most popular, because from 1990 on, I completely withdrew from the loop of rock and roll. I moved to Arizona. I built a recording studio. So whatever I did then, I didn't even do hardly any interviews. And I basically have been out of the machine or out of the loop of rock and roll since I finished the Strangers in the Night album with the UFO, and then just helped out the Scorpions with the Love Drive album to open the doors for America for them. And then I basically wanted to start doing small stuff, you know, and but it didn't get as small as I wanted it, because Peter Mensch was already waiting for me, and he sent me straight to Aerosmith to see if the chemistry between me and Aerosmith would be great to replace Joey Perry. Anyway, I made the first step in the right direction, which the black and white V actually marks the 2nd part of my life, which was more put together for me to be able to have my own band, to be able to do what I want when I wanted to do it, and to do it, without pressure and really experiment with music and do whatever I wanted to do, which I have done all the time anyway. But the whole development of my first part of my life, of my musical career, which was the whole development, in the 70s when I made my musical contribution to the world unconsciously, that impacted many generations and many guitarists and influenced a lot of players, but which I didn't know because I was just having fun playing. I never really wanted to be famous. But on top of it, I was always stage fright, and so was having fun playing guitar, I mean, I forgot the rest of the world when I was playing. But, in the second part of my life, I decided to, I actually developed all the way from Lonesome Crow, the first Scorpions album, all the way to Love Drive. Basically, that was my, throughout the whole UFO period. It took 8 years. I developed all the way from the first record to my first step of completion of development as a guitarist. And so when I was 23 years old in 78, I was very grateful that I was able to taste success and fame at its highest. And because of that, I was able to make a fair decision. I knew that I was granted to know what it was like being famous, so that I didn't have the feeling I missed something in case I decide, to do what I actually ended up deciding, to experiment with music and leave the famous place up there, and just have fun as an artist and do whatever I wanted. And so I carried on, for the next 10 years doing the albums with Gary Barden, and purposely looked actually for an unknown singer, so I was able to do things more relaxed. And that led to then Peter Mensch wanted to have Graham. The next he wanted to change singers, and he suggested David Coverdale, and then that didn't work out, and then Graham Bonnet was available, and then we did that, and that didn't last long. He only ended up 15 minutes on stage. Actually, the funny thing is, the whole Robbie McCauley part and the Graham Bonnet part has never really been performed live on stage with original singers or even with other singers for over 30, 35 years, with the exception of Assault Attack. And so that's all pretty, the opposite of overexposed. It hasn't actually been exposed at all. So, and maybe, anyway, so here we are. I was thinking, what can I do? And I realized that my energy has been spread all over the place, like where other bands, they stay together 40, 50 years, and they build a brand name for themselves and, and release who knows how many albums. But I've spread my energy all over the place for various different reasons. I never really fired anybody. I just couldn't keep people on retainers, and I just always wanted to experiment. So not everybody was always that interested in experimenting. They rather be part of a trend and make money. But, I was having fun just experimenting. So, and get things out of my system, do, instrumental albums and all sorts of stuff, and also focus on life. And so 2008 was a very strange, end of 2007, 2008, all of a sudden, I had stage fright all my life. All of a sudden, I wanted to be on stage, and I took that as a sign to start, connecting with the loop of rock and roll again. And so, and then eventually, when I took a break with Temple of Rock, I went like, wait a minute, this is the time. This is the third part of my life. This is the time to show up with original singers, as many as possible. By the way, this is 2018. It's actually the anniversary, 40th anniversary of Strangers in the Night. And so who knows, on our world tour, maybe at some point Fillmore shows up, And 2019, I am actually celebrating 50 years of recording. Actually, it's also applies to Klaus. And I wrote my very first song, In Search of Peace of Mind. that was unfortunately credited to all of the Scorpions, but I actually wrote it by myself in the music in the kitchen of my mother's in my mother's place, and so there was nobody there. Anyway, so you know, who knows? Maybe Klaus is open to it and celebrate 50 years of recording and shows up sometimes in the future in 2019. Who knows? You know, the ultimate Michael Schenker Fest, it would be called. But for now, you know, we are blessed with the situation to have 4 original singers, and we even have original musicians. You know, Chris Glenn and Ted McKenna as a rhythm section, and that's the original Assault Attack rhythm section. You know, behind Graham Bonnet's vocals. Assault Attack was actually a musician's favorite, and then of course after Cozy Powell departed, Ted McKenna and Chris Glenn was also MSG rhythm section behind Gary Barton, and then you know Macaulay, and then we did the thing with and then a very unexpected twist or idea came to mind, you know, about Steve Mann, who's an excellent musician and who was connected to the Macaulay Schenker group, and he actually wrote the hit Anytime and with Robin, and so I have a really good, the best of the 80s that I was involved in, or the guys that were involved in, and so you know we called up the guys, the singers, and they were more than happy to do it. The musicians, they were ready to do it. And so, you know, we did the Sweden Rock 2000, when was it, 16, and from then, and everything actually, you know, it was not a master plan put together like, oh, I'm going to do this great thing, and I had a complete plan from beginning to end. It just happened. One thing led to the next, like everything in my life always does. There's never a real master plan. It's just I live in the now, and as I live in the now, I look around what is going on, and that usually inspires me to come up with the next stuff. And so, you know, we got an offer 2016 to headline Loud Park near Tokyo, the 3rd largest indoor arena in the world, and I asked who is headlining who's headlining the other night, and they said the Scorpions. I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it then. And then, which was a good thing, because I told them, ask me again next year. And so my original booking agent, promoter in Japan offered me 3 shows instead. And one of them, when it was Tokyo, when I saw the venue, I went crazy. I thought, this is Budokan all over again. But it was never filmed, so I decided to film this, you know, and I didn't even ask anybody, you know, I didn't even discuss this with anybody. I just invested into myself. I knew it had to be done, no matter what. So I hired crew and everything, and then edited it and mixed it, gave it to my record company. And for the first time, people around the world were able to, you know, see the potential of this rather than watching it through the iPhone and the YouTube. And so, you know, that was the next step. And then I thought, like, you know, and then because of that, we were getting, offers for an album, for a studio album. And I thought, Michael Schenker Fest in the studio. So I had this funny idea about, you know, having a big table with full of food and drinks and women and everybody, and with a background in the background the recording studio, and having a fest in the studio. So I thought that was funny, and so I started getting to work, and then I got, you know, a very attractive record deal offer from Nuclear Blast, who are based, the main company is based in Germany, but they have companies all over the world, and I've actually met them because I went on promo tour around the world, you know, for 2 months, and so it's a fantastic company, and you know, I went to Los Angeles for the American portion, and so you know, I actually didn't want to do it in the beginning because I felt quite comfortable with my cable company that was selling CDs on the side. So
right.
I kind of
the music business has changed a little bit, right? I mean, you know, from when you were doing this the first time around.
I don't know if it has changed or not, because I never was really interested and I never followed up. You know, I I never really found out, you know. I mean, I got cheated so many times, not because I found out myself, because people told me, and then, you know, but because I was never focusing on business, period. And so, but, you know, the main thing was that after, you know, Strangers in the Night, I just wanted to focus on experimenting with music. You know, I just, but I didn't know that I wasn't able to completely go zero straight away, because Peter Mensch, he was taking care of me, and he wanted to do big business with me. Okay, so I couldn't really become very small, but I disappeared completely in the 90s, and that's when I started having my fun, completely disconnected, and I was doing acoustic instrumentals and electric instrumentals and jams with all sorts of different great musicians and so on. But,
Michael, part of your legend, by the way, Michael Schenker, I just want to reset. You're playing March 6th at the Fillmore. It's the Michael Schenker Fest. You know, I just wanted to say, you know, you've done so many things in your career with so many different people, as I say, good and bad and ugly, but yeah, it really is a marvel when I see Rush or I see U2, where it's only been them, it's always been them. Most every other band has had a member die, leave, replace, disagreements. We've got brothers who can't get along in rock and roll you know, before you and your issues with the Scorpions. But do you look back upon any of that and say how incredible it would have been to keep a band together for 50 years? How rare that is, because it never happens for anyone.
It was incredible, because for me it was all about you know, my focus is on the single string, the fascination with the single string, the art of lead guitar with pure self-expression. It has very little to do with the Scorpions or UFO or any other band. It's really, my focus is lead guitar playing. I fell in love with Robert Plant and Jimmy Page and Rod Stewart and Jeff Beck. You know, what they did, that's what I loved, you know. A great singer, a great guitarist, you know, the song starts with a riff, the singer, a great singer, starts kicking off the song, and then the guitarist takes it to another, you know, level, and then the singer brings it back to the ground, and then, you know, out with a solo. That's what I love, you know. And so, you know, when I left the Scorpions for the first time, I said, like, if an English band would ask me to join, I would join anybody, no matter who it is, you know. I didn't join UFO because of UFO. I just wanted to be in England, because in Germany, people had no clue. The funny thing is, now I'm signed to a German record company. Become full cycle. Now the Germans seem to understand what's going on. And so anyway, I left the Scorpions because in Germany, people didn't understand what I was doing. And so when I went and joined UFO, I actually turned them into a rock band. And then it was time for me to leave, because, you know, I was cooking, you know, like I was bubbling with creativity and wanting to experiment. No band, no touring band who wanted to be part of the trend and make money and be successful, be in the charts, would have wanted me in their band if they knew what I was up to. Nobody would. It would have been torture for them to having to experiment with me. Experiment doesn't lead to fame and to money, you know? I mean, they can be blessed that I left. You know, they should be blessed that they let me go. And but you know, I did what I wanted to do. I fulfilled my vision. You know, everybody's got their own vision, but it doesn't mean there is only one vision that counts. You know, or one vision that matters. My vision matters to me, and I stayed true to myself. I didn't take offers from Ozzy Osbourne and Aerosmith and even the Rolling Stones I ignored completely. And, you know, people, Ozzy Osbourne and Deep Purple and David Coverdale and so on, and the endless list. People stopped at some point because they knew that it was pointless, because I had my own idea of what I wanted to do. So what I was doing in the middle years would not have fitted into any super band, period. And but what I was doing, the middle years, was the most rewarding time for me, because that's where I learned everything. That's when I got everything out of my system, and that let me be today who I am, and I can do anything today. I have done what I needed to do, and I'm happy that I did. And now I can celebrate, and it's a fantastic place to be.
Michael Schenker joining us here. They're going to put the whole band together. I mean, everything. We got Gary Barden, Graham Bonnet, Robin McCauley, Doogie White, Chris Glenn, Ted McKenna. And I did not know that Steve Mann wrote Any Time. And I think most fans would remember MSG and Macaulay Schenker and Any Time. I have to ask you about Gibson guitars. I have to ask you about the Flying V that you're so celebrated and known for by everyone. And this story, I mean, what a time. I booked you on last week. I'm talking to Rob Halford from Judas Priest later this week as well. And Gibson guitars going out of business? Can we live through that, Michael Schenker?
I don't, like I said before, I have very little to do with business, you know.
Right.
I have to do a lot to do with the joy of music, you know. I'm a spirit on a mission, spreading the joy of music from a place of pure self-expression. So, you know, if the guitar is once out of business, I build myself a guitar.
How many guitars do you have? How many Gibson Flying Vs are in your closet?
I don't have any Gibson, and I have lots of Dean guitars all over the place.
How many?
I wouldn't even know how many.
But how do you know which guitar to pick up in the morning? You know, when you want to play.
You know, when you travel, you know, like I lived. You know, when I started with Dean guitars in 2004, I still lived in Arizona, and so I have a storage in America where I keep amplifiers and guitars. I have a storage and here where I live in the UK. And I have several places where I keep guitars, and I don't always look in the storage and count my guitars. I mean, we have built so many, and I have been sent so many, and I have a bunch of guitars stored with my guitar tech in Germany, and so they're all over the place. I don't know. But you know, I usually have my two guitars or one guitar that I take with me wherever I go, so I can play when I'm in hotels and so on. And that could be any guitar at any time, whatever is standing around that I pick up. They all play well. I don't really have to be picky about it. And so I just pick whatever comes in the way, put it in the case, and leave. And so, you know, but the good thing is having guitars all over the place. I don't have to, you know, bring 5-6 guitars, you know, across the ocean and so on. But actually, I do that because I do have my set of guitars that I actually use in Europe and in Japan and in the USA. And but those guitars that are lying around all over the place are guitars I don't play currently. So the guitar set changes, you know, over the years. By now, then Dean built me a hollow body electric, and then I put that in, and I leave another guitar out instead, and so I don't even know, you know, and it's a bit like hair grow. You don't see hair grow. I don't even see the changes because they're so subtle. I just change one guitar, and then, you know, 2 years later, I see pictures, and it's almost a whole new set. But it happened gradually. It doesn't happen all in one go. And then, of course, when a new model comes in, I take that into my set, and then maybe something else goes, and so on, you know. But,
I would think for a guy like you, the technology from the time you were a kid picking up a guitar and idolizing Jimmy Page to where you are now, I mean, the technology for studios and for recording equipment and for guitars has made, you know, a creative guy like you probably tinker with everything once or twice, right? Pick it up and see if you like it.
Well, you know, technology again is another thing that is not my strength. My strengths. You know, for me, it's the heart. For me, it's the spirit. For me, it's the writing from within. It's all about the ear. I know what I want. It's about self-expression. The one thing I've noticed, and I'm very grateful for, you know, when I was recording with Ron Everson and UFO, it took me 75% of actually making an album, tuning. 25% I actually played. Today, it's 2 minutes tuning, and the rest I play. So I'm very grateful for these kind of developments that make you play more and have to suffer less with stuff like, you know, rubbish like tuning. You know, it's just unbelievable.
Michael, it's a pleasure to have met you again and had you on for a little while to talk about your career and everything you've done. We're looking forward to the tour. It stops first night of the tour. You've done this before. Were you in Sweden recently or some other? I was looking on your website. This isn't the first time all of you are going on stage here at the Fillmore. Just the first time in America, right?
This with 4 singers the first time. By the way, on the 2nd of March, the new album is coming out. Don't forget. People need to know on the 2nd, 4 days before we play in the States, the album is going to be released worldwide. And so everybody can, hear the new development. So this is the first time that we're actually touring with 4 singers. The last concert was in the UK just only a few months ago, and it was with 3 singers. But now Dougie White, the current singer that I had with Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock, is part of it. And, we have 4 singers on this brand new studio album. It's called Resurrection, released on the 2nd of March. It's a fantastic album, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. It was hard work getting everything together. Even Kirk Hammett is on it, doing a guitar jam with me. And so, but it was much more fun than work.
So when you call someone like Kirk Hammett, you say, hey, come on in and do this. Yeah, I bet people pick up the phone for you.
It's like Kirk. Peter Mensch always told me I'm Kirk Hammett's Santa Claus, and Kirk always, which means I'm his favorite guitarist, but Kirk always wanted to meet with me, jam with me, and then eventually we did it at the That Metal show with Eddie Trunk, and then he came on stage with us on a tour in the States and jammed with us. And, he became a fan, became a friend, and plays in the biggest band in the world. I said, Kirk, you want to do it? Yes, let's do it. And so, he was very happy. And so are we. It's great to have, for him, it's a mission complete. And we have, one of the greatest, guitarists of the greatest band in the world play on our record. It's fantastic.
March 6th is the date. That starts the entire tour at the Fillmore. And if you missed that, they're up in Philly on the 11th at the TLA as well. You can get all the dates and all the information out on the web at michaelschenkerhimself.com. The album is Resurrection. That's out any day or any time as we would say. But on the 6th, all the singers coming together. Barden, Bonnet, McCauley, and Dougie White joining the great Michael Schenker, who is joining us from the UK. Now, have a safe trip across the pond. We'll see you on the 6th down at the Fillmore. Thanks for the time, Michael. It was a great visit with you.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Michael Schenker. The Michael Schenker Fest North American Tour can be found at michaelschenkerhimself.com. You can find me out in the Buy at Toyota.com Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Our morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. You can sign up at WNST.net. That's all powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life as we enter spring. Hopefully some of these nice days we've had here lately will keep up as well. Any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. The Ray Lewis bus leaves on August the 2nd. We're now on to our 4th bus. You can go to the Road Trips tab at WNST.net and learn more there. I am Nestor. We never stop talking Baltimore sports and rock and roll whenever we want. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we're going to be around for a while. Sticking to sports, probably not. A little rock and roll, definitely so. We are WNST.net. AM 1570 WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports